menchacho bia me gidi se oba de ada romanti obi bia ho ye de na chese ye bebo awura ene nsɛm ntentem yi a ne akɔ mu wɔ NPP akache ne Alan Kwadwo Kyerematen akache na Paul Adomɔkye de nsɛm bi aba abɛto abɔnten ɛfa Alan Kwadwo Kyerematen ne resignation no. Alan Kwadwo Kyerematen kyerɛ sɛ the nti a wɔfiri NPP party mu ɛyɛ nsɛm bebree te sɛ ne reasons na wɔde bɛto abɔnten de ɛdɔɔso pan yɛka sɛ yɛbɛka ɛnyɛ asɛm ketewa na Paul Adomɔkye de nsɛm bi abɛto abɔnten a wɔkyerɛ sɛ Alan Kwadwo Kyerematen ne decision a wɔateki no kyerɛ sɛ ɛmu yɛ ha paa na deɛ bɛnti na wɔkasa wɔ sɛ Ghana yɛ politics ne ankɔyɛ NPP a na kyerɛ sɛ ɛyɛ NDC na kyerɛ sɛ Alan Kwadwo Kyerematen ɔno nko ntumi mbɛstande nwini ɛyɛ seat of the president of Ghana ɔsɛ ɔno nko ntumi mbɛstande esi da sɛ ohia ɛyɛ NPP support ɛbɛkɔ akɔtie ɛyɛ Paul Adomɔkye asɛm a ɔde to abɔnten ne secret obi abie ɛnɛ ne de kan a ɔte ɔde no TV a mɛma remfisa ɔbɛ subscribe to our channel ɔbɛ like na do adwene kyerɛ so egu comment section kama mede obi bi ase.
Example, the circumstances of 79 is quite different, and we can get to that. What is similar to Alan Kyerematen's situation for the people who are much younger is the 2000 election where Charles Rekubrobe, who was a founding member of the MPP, a very senior and important member of the Alliance for Change that wrote the Kumi Prekun election demonstrations, a very important member of Kwame Pianim's campaign of the 1996 MPP presidential event, who then decided to leave the MPP because he felt that the party was incapable of winning the 2000 elections, even though he felt the election was up for grabs. And he set up a different party. The circumstances of Rekubrobe's agitations at the time are very, very similar to Alan Kyerematen's concerns about how he has not been allowed to operate. This was Rekubrobe's issue, how he has not been allowed to operate, how the party is being hijacked by some people, how his contribution has been overlooked and is not respected. A lot of the things Dr. Brobe said were about how he has been treated or allegations of how he has been treated. It came as a big deal. But then he ran as an independent candidate in a party called the UGM, something like that. And so that's very similar to Alan. You can also look way behind 79 and go all the way to 10 years earlier, in 1969, after the coup that overthrew Nkrumah and politics was coming again in terms of party politics. There was a guy, a very important member of the MPP called Joe Appiah. He's actually a legend of the MPP. Joe Appiah started his life as a CPP with Victor Usu and others, and then was moved to the UP tradition. Joe Appiah had been studying abroad in exile with Professor Bawumia. When Bawumia was selected as the leader of the party, Appiah was very unhappy with the selection of Bawumia, and he became a thorn in the flesh of the system. Eventually, he stepped out to form his own party, but he couldn't even manage the parliamentary election. That was parliamentary elections, and Appiah did not even win his own seat in Kumasi. So the similarities of Alan Kyerematen will be better placed looking at Charles Rekubrobe's example of 2000 and Joe Appiah's example of 1969. The 1979 is a completely different kettle of fish, which we can talk about.
Indeed, that kettle of fish, many believe, is the reason we had the man from Golu becoming the president of. The question now is, now that we are seeing Alan exiting the party at this crucial moment, does it pave the way for the man from Bole to come to the Jubilee House?
If you look at Alan's situation as similar to 79, then you may ask that question. But those of us who think it's dissimilar, I don't think that question arises.
Why do you think it's dissimilar?
It's dissimilar because the 79 election, the circumstances were as follows. A coup had taken over party politics after the Bawumia era. A champion had staged the coup. So the coup era has seen a lot of demonstrations occurring in the mid-70s. And the force of the demonstrations was the whole impetus that got the palace coup against a champion and eventually the revolt of June 4th. Some people thought that that group of people who, without party politics, had led that revolution, that onslaught, that demonstration, that social awareness, the consciousness that was created by the PMMFJ. That's what it was called, an amalgamation. Many people thought that the PMMFJ, as it was, populated by former politicians, former members of parliament, professional associations, students of Ghana, they thought that the PMMFG should be snowballed into a political party to change the dynamics of the country. And so that was the circumstances of the time. So a lot of people felt that we should go with the PMMFG group. But the traditionalists of the UP insisted that they needed a traditional UP party. So that was the conversation at the time. So if you take a stalwart like Professor Edu Boahen, what he became for the MPP, Edu Boahen was actually one of those who felt that the movement that overthrew the military and brought back party politics, that movement should be formed to form a political party. They also argued that the traditional setting of the UP tradition was steeped in Menchia Palace and Ashantism. And they thought that that needed to change because the NLM, the National Liberation Movement, out of which the UP was formed in Menchia Palace. It had its objectives about supporting Ashanti cocoa farmers. So the Duboahens of the mid-70s, the Obeda Samuels, the Alhaji Muhammad Idrisus, Dr. Gama, Sami Okujeto, Peter Alajete, they all felt that this intrinsic association of Ashantism with the UP tradition should change by forming a party that has a broad base. So that's why their party mantra was broad-based. They called it broad-based the best, and they called it a convention. So that was the circumstances of the time. The force of forming a party that did not have the intrinsic appearance of the NLM at the time was much, much greater than the circumstances of Alanche Martin today. So when the traditionalists felt that they needed a political party, they asked William Oforiatta if he wanted to contest the election. They were confident that if an election is thrown up, the support of Ashanti region for Victor Usu was going to be significant. They also believed that the support of Ashanti region will be endorsed by Eastern region and the general Akan community in Middle Belt to Southern Ghana. This was one of the agitations of Akentena Pianinka, who believed that, if you read his book, it's there. If you read Don Kofojo's book, it's all there. Who believed that if we were to go to a contest, the Akan force will make Victor Usu win. It appeared that William Oforiatta suspected that. So he didn't participate. Initially, he said he won't participate in the contest. When the contest came, Owusu won anyway. So Owusu became the flag bearer of the UP tradition as it was. And then the forces around then convinced William Oforiatta that you should also run. Now, that election, that 79 election, had also the Nkrumah's position divided in the same manner. Many people don't talk about that. But I'm happy that Professor Ivan Adai-Mensah writes it out in his book, that if they talk about the UP being divided, then Nkrumah was more divided. If you look at the list of political parties that contested 79, Colonel Banasco was a famous Nkrumah, the Action Congress Party. He didn't join the PMP of Imori Igala. He felt that Imori Igala was not subscribing to the dictates of Nkrumahism. And so Colonel Banasco ran on his own. I believe that PKK Kwedu also ran on his own. So the Nkrumah's parties for 79 election was more than two. The Dakwa Buzia's parties for the 79 election were two. So that was the circumstances of the 79 election.